Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free. Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this country,
Give us free.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new BlackVillage Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, aka Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the BlackVillage Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all, living here and above.
AC in the house.
4 years ago, dirty water contaminated with lead started flowing from Flint's taps, causing sickness and death, while officials denied there was a problem.
When we're dead and gone, these children will suffer for what we failed to do.
Now, officials insist the water is safe to drink, but residents don't trust them.
How many people have we buried and babies have died because of this? And we're just supposed to get over it.
As an ordinary citizen, if I poisoned one individual, I would be in prison. And they poisoned an entire city of people, and no one is being held accountable.
The state of Michigan has stopped providing free bottled water to Flint, forcing people to spend thousands of dollars on water to drink, cook, bathe, and even flush the toilet. And water bills here are already some of the highest in the country.
Why should the people of Flint pay for water that poisoned them, that they don't trust, and in a lot of cases they don't even use?
Because the water is safe. Because the water is safe. Because the water is.
The birthplace of General Motors, Flint, Michigan is now a symbol of industrial decline, with high poverty and crime rates. And now, a new danger. It's brotha.
Poisoning our sons and daughters for fun. Washing my face and hands with nothing but bottled water and wipes. To save a buck, Snyder's administration room with the pipes. And now we're fighting for our lives and asking who can we trust. Problems about us, these politicians, they ain't trying to discuss. And then they wonder why we rarely vote, I'm keeping it real. If you're not from Flint, then you could never understand how we feel. Rachel Maddow broke the story, now it's worldwide news. I wish the governor could walk a couple blocks in my shoes, so he could witness all this poverty and crime that exists. And all this hatred and racism we've been fighting against. City of lead.
is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure.
Hey, this is JC, aka Afro Black, here with you for another Indigenous Sunday to share nothing but the raw and uncut here on the BlackVillage Community Podcast. That's what I do here, people. I share the raw and uncut. You feel me? Things that people don't want to hear. Some things people want to hear. Some things people want to run from. And some things people avoid. You feel me? And some things people are ignorant to. And that's what we do here on the BlackVillage Community Podcast. We share the raw and uncut indigenous conscious truth. You feel me? And today's podcast subject matter is a continuation from last week's podcast subject matter, which is, and I shall quote, the plantation poisoning of a people, part 2. Again, the plantation poisoning of a people, part 2. Why, subtitle, why we eat the way we do, people. Again, why we eat the way we do. And so let me change up something a little bit more laid back to Tupac in the backdrop, as I always do. You feel me? And so, okay, people, Tupac in the backdrop as I verberate on this subject matter today on today's podcast, which is the 22nd of July. And so, last week, as I shared with you guys what was going on in Flint, Michigan, and what is a continued ongoing issue, and it has not stopped, it has not ended, they have not changed, giving the people clean water. And as you heard on that update and intro to the show with the Dayton family's music coming after, but the fact that they're cutting off bottled water to the people. They're cutting off the government, the system, and the state of Michigan is cutting off clean bottled water from the people, even though the water is not totally, it's not totally clean for the people to be drinking. And what cracked me up is that they want to persist by telling people and trying to promote the fact that they saying that the water is safe. But they haven't even done anything for the people to help them with their children, to help them with their illnesses, to help them with the aftermath of what these white devils have done to the residents of Flint, Michigan. And Flint is only the tip of the iceberg, people. I told you last week I was going to deal with what's going on in Chicago. And yes, this matter is just as bad, if not worse, in Chicago, peeps. You feel me? And my whole point, if somebody wondering, why are you talking about something that's nothing new? Why are you talking about something? I know there's somebody out there thinking this crazy crap right now, thinking, what are you doing? You're not doing that but just, exasperating the situation. You're not doing anything but just promoting the same thing that the media. No, I'm going to tell you, I'm an indigenous Aboriginal brother. You feel me? My point of talking about the plant, like I said, these cities are plantations. And the plantation was set up for and by indigenous Aborigines. If you go back during the times of the 16th and the 15th century, the first plantation, why do you think they don't talk about the first plantations being built? They want to act like these white devils are devils. If I was talking to a white historian devil right now, he would say, well, we never said that the plantation started in the 17th century. Yes, you did. You insinuate that. When you got people running around here talking about the African built the plantation, no Africans has built any plantations in America, people. I'm going to say that again, and I'll tell any white devil and any black so-called AKA black devil, ignorant porch monkey Negro historian to his face, prove it to me, though you can show me that these were Africans that built and where they came from in Africa that built these plantations. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the indigenous Aborigines are the ones that built the plantations, and it was built off of the backs of our indigenous Aboriginal American ancestors, as well as the fact that a lot of the plantations were built right there in their indigenous communities. Right there in their indigenous communities where they had already cultivated corn and tobacco and other things that they were living on. Raw and uncut, just like that here on the BlackVillage. I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut, people. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to give you the real. You feel me? And so last week, as I was sharing with you, okay, that what I'm doing with this podcast subject matter is breaking it up into a couple parts. You know, this is part 2, but it's going to go into a part 3. So I told you last Sunday podcast topic is a twofold. With the first being the plantation poisoning of the people. The subtitle, Why We Eat the Way We Do, which is going to be another subject matter where I talk about how we eat today and how it's connected to our ancestors. I'm going to deal with that, people. You feel me? This topic will be in 2 parts, as I said. The first dealing with the plantation poisoning of the people, and then as I spoke last week about Flint, Michigan, okay, which is Flint, Michigan is only the spark that's lighting the flame. You feel me? Of truth, as I continue this week's podcast with an informative discussion on the toxic poisoning of what's going on with our indigenous brothers and sisters in Chicago. You feel me? The ongoing injustice and as it continues to this very day. You feel me? So a great majority, and I said this before last week, I'm going to say it again, a great majority of us, and these white devils know this, a great majority of us are in fact descendants of the original first people, the Aboriginal Americans. We will discuss the past and the present, and explore why we eat the way we do when I get into further discussion in next week and the week after that when I talk about why we eat the way we do, okay? In dealing with our ancestors and the way they were trained to eat unhealthy and how these habits were passed down to us to the present day. You feel me? Starting with, as I said, I started with Michigan. Now I'm going to go into what's going on with the brothers and sisters in Chicago and how they're continuing their agenda of poisoning our people. But you know what? With that being said, let me go into a little bit of the history of Chicago. Okay, let me go into a little bit of the history of Chicago, like how Chicago got its name. Most people don't know that Chicago, the name Chicago, is an indigenous name. The name itself, Chicago, is. Let me get into that. Okay, this is an article that I'm reading from. This article right here. Let me give you the name of this article that I'm reading from right now with this little bit of this historical information that I'm going to share with my indigenous brothers and sisters who might not know this. You feel me? Okay, has this come up? All right. Now, how Chicago got its name. The name of Chicago is derived from a French rendering of the indigenous people, the Miami, Illinois tribe, and the word itself, which comes from their indigenous language, Chikawa. For a wild, and what Chikawa means is for the name of an onion, a wild onion that grew in Michigan, a wild onion that grew in Michigan, known for its botanist and the botanist name of Allium ticoum. The first reference to the site of the current city of Chicago, which was by Robert de La Salle around 1679. Okay, a Frenchman by the name of Robert de La Salle around 1679. The name Chicago is derived from the French rendering of the indigenous Miami, Illinois tribe and their language, and that it's derived from from a word that the indigenous people call Chikawa, which is a relative word that meant wild onions. Okay, wild onions. Henry Jotel, in his journal of 1688, noted that wild garlic grew abundantly in the area, according to the diary of late September. In his diary in late September of 1687, when we arrived, and this is what he wrote in his diary: when we arrived at the said place called Chicago, which, according to what we were able to learn from it, has taken this name because of the quantity of garlic which grows in the forest in this region. Now, he said garlic. Another historian said onion. Okay. In the mid-18th century, the area was inhabited by a Native American tribe known as the Potawatomi, who had taken the place of the Miami and the Sauk and the Fox people. The first non-indigenous permanent settler in Chicago was Jean Baptiste. Okay. And another man by the name of Jean-Baptiste, okay, and Du Sable, okay, an African Frenchman by the name of Du Sable, okay. In 1795, following the Northwest Indian War, an area that was to be part of Chicago was turned over to the United States for a military post by native tribes in accordance with the Treaty of Greenville in 1803. And that's going to be another subject matter I'm going to share with you guys. I want you to know there were hundreds of treaties that the U.S. made with the indigenous tribes of Michigan. Okay, and I want you to know that, people, the primary main tribes in Michigan at that time was the Illinois Indians, okay? And the Illinois Indians are Eloweek is another name. They call them the Eloweek or the Illinois Indians, were connected directly descendants of the Olmec people. They were mound builders, people. They were mound builders. And so all these other tribes also are affiliated with the Illinois Indians, the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, the let me see who else. Okay, even the Miami Indians, the M-I-A-M-I. Okay, all these tribes and a number of them. Let me go on down. I got some more information right here. The Cahokia, the Chippewa, the Kaskaskia, the Michigamia. All these are Indian tribes, people. Okay, that I'm mentioning right now. The Tamora. These are all Indian tribes, people, and they were all connected. The Osaga, they're all connected to the Illinois Indians of Michigan. You feel me? These are all Indian tribes that I'm mentioning right now, that are indigenous to that area of Michigan, including Chicago. All right. So my point being is this, okay? And if I read on down, I got some information I want to share with you as well, okay? When it comes, what does this have to do with the lead poisoning of the people? Well, people, I want you to know, these white devils, the first people they attempted and successfully poisoned was indigenous people. I got the information right here, people. This is taken from a website called The History of Bioterrorism in America. Okay. Before I share that with you, let me continue on. Before I share with you the history of how these foods were poisoning our ancestors going back to the 18th and 17th century. They've been whole history. They don't mind poisoning the people in Chicago. They don't mind poisoning the people in Flint, Michigan. They don't mind poisoning anywhere where there's concentrations of so-called black and brown people, because they've been doing this ever since they came here. They did it to our indigenous ancestors when they first got here, during the wars and before the wars that we had with these fools. But before I go on and read any more history, people, let me play this audio cast that I'm going to play in reference to the people of Chicago. What's going on in Chicago? The same thing that's happening in Flint is happening in the state of Chicago. So let me play this audio cast, and we shall return, people.
I've got lead in the brain. That's what they say. We all live out here. We got lead in the brain.
More than 1,000 people in East Chicago, Indiana, are scrambling to find new homes. Their entire neighborhood is contaminated with lead and arsenic.
First, high lead levels in the soil, and now in the water. Residents in East Chicago can't seem to catch a break.
I moved here in May. In June came, and EPA came in and informed all the residents that the soil and the water was highly contaminated with lead and arsenic. I spent at least $300 to $400 a month in water purchases from the store. I use the water that I buy for everything, for cooking, for bathing, for everything. When the Flint, Michigan situation happened, I was buying cases and cases of water to take to my daughter's school so that it could be donated to Flint. It's like deja vu. When I moved over here in May, no one told me about the lead and arsenic contamination. If I had have known, I would never have moved over here. They didn't disclose that. And yet, they called me for this apartment to move over here. Why do that if you knew that this area was highly contaminated?
I've been living in Chicago, West Calumet area all my life. This is where I was born and raised, right here. Our house used to be right there. I love Calumet. I have Calumet in my heart, and everybody that knows me knows that. Everybody get along. You don't see too many communities like our community. It doesn't even look like a housing complex, you know, as they call it, a project. It looks like a subdivision. We have refinery companies right around us. We're surrounded by lead plants, USS Lead, DuPont, Anaconda, Eagle Pitcher. We never knew the harm that the lead would cause people. All our families worked at these places. That's the way we looked at it, you know, it's putting food on the table.
East Chicago is a low-income community of color that has disproportionately been exposed to environmental harm. The West Calumet housing complex was built on top of a former lead smelter that had not been properly cleaned up. That's public housing. Officials knew about this contamination as early as 1985 when the last lead smelter closed. Nothing happened at the site until 2009 when the site was finally listed under Superfund, which is a federal law that provides for the cleanup of the most contaminated sites in the country. And it really wasn't until it began undertaking more serious testing between 2014 and 2016 that EPA realized just how contaminated the soil was. It discovered that there were properties that were hundreds of times greater than the level that it would normally use as an action level for cleanup.
There you go, people. You heard it. You heard it, how bad it is. That they got a housing project sitting on top of an old, outdated, not properly contained smelting device or mechanism or whatever, where they smelted lead, where they obviously melted it and used it for whatever purpose they were using it for, but they didn't properly contain it, they didn't properly dispose of it, and there's a housing project that's fully contaminated. Now, when I was doing my research for this and I was listening to a documentary of what's going on in Chicago and parts of Chicago where concentrations of our people, indigenous, aka so-called black folks, are living in projects and in low impoverished areas, and it's so contaminated that the dirt, the trees, the playing in the playground, the children are playing with lead. And it's not only lead, but there's toxins as well, toxins in the soil. Now the question is, did they always know about this? Did these devils always known this? That they've always known this? Because I think they've always known. I mean, they improperly buried, did not dispose of properly a lead smelting machine that's sitting under the ground under a housing project. They knew what they were doing. I got some information right here that talks about lead, the history of lead poisoning. These white devils have always known about lead. Okay, let me read this. Okay, the description of lead poisoning dates to at least 2000 BC, while efforts to limit lead use dates back to at least the 16th century. Did y'all hear that, people? While efforts to limit lead use dates back to at least the 16th century. Concerns for low levels of exposure begins in the 1970s. With there being no safe threshold for lead exposure. Lead poisoning was among the first known and most widely studied work and environmental hazards. Did you hear that? Again, lead poisoning was one of the first known and most widely studied work and environmental hazards. One of the first metals to be smelted and used. Lead is thought to have been discovered and first mined in Anatolia around 65,000 BC. Its density, workability, and corrosion resistance were among the metal's attractions. In the 2nd century BC, the Greek botanist Nicander described the colic and paralysis seen in lead-poisoned people. Did you hear that? A 2nd century Greek botanist by the name of Nicander described the colic and paralysis seen in lead-poisoned people. A Greek physician by the name of Dioscorides, a Greek physician who lived in the 1st century AD, wrote that lead makes the mind give way. A Greek physician wrote this. His name is Dioscorides. That's his name. Dioscorides. Dioscorides. A Greek physician who lived in the 1st century AD wrote that lead makes the mind give way. Lead was used extensively in Roman aqueducts from about 500 BC to 300 AD. Julius Caesar engineered his engineer by the name of Vitruvius reported water is much more wholesome from the earthenware pipes than from lead pipes. Julius Caesar's engineer Vitruvius reported water is much more wholesome from earthenware pipes than from lead pipes, for it seems to be made injurious by lead, because white lead is produced by it, and this is said to be harmful to the human body. This was said by Julius Caesar's engineer. These white devils have always known of the toxicity of lead, people. They've always known. Okay, let me continue to read what his engineer says. He said, for it seems to be made injurious by lead, because white lead is produced by it, and this is said to be harmful to the human body. Gout, prevalent in affluent Rome, is thought to be the result of lead, or lead eating and drinking vessels. Sugar of lead, was used to sweeten wine, and the gout that resulted from this was known as Santorin gout. It is even hypothesized that the lead poisoning may have contributed to the decline of the Roman Empire, a hypothesis throughout disputed. So there you go, people. That's a history lesson that white folks have always known about lead poisoning. Ain't nowhere in the world, as much as they worship and honor the Romans, as much as they hold to and constantly talk about and also teach the Roman history in our school system, that these white devils did not know. I got more information sitting right here proving that they knew of lead poisoning even after the Romans. I got some more information sitting right here. 30 years ago, here, check this one out. 30 years ago, Jerome Naragu argued in a milestone paper that Roman civilization collapsed as a result of lead poisoning. Claire Patterson, the scientist who convinced governments to ban lead from gasoline, enthusiastically endorsed the idea, which nevertheless triggered a volley of publications aimed at refuting it. Although today lead is no longer seen as the prime culprit of Rome's demise, its status in the system of water distribution by lead pipes still stands as a major public health issue. By measuring PB isotopes composition of sediments from the Tigris River and the Trojanic harbor, the present work shows that the tap water from the ancient Roman had 100 times more lead than local spring waters. So lead poisoning did, just that right there just proves that lead poisoning led to the decline of the Roman Empire. It says that they tested water in the Tiber River. Not back then. That means it's still there today. And it's 100 times more lead in the water than in the springs. Come on, people. These white devils have always known. They've always known. They don't give a damn. So the question is, JC, what is your point? What should we be doing? We should be coming together, people. This right here shows that you cannot trust the white devil. So we need to what? Come together. But how can we come together if we don't know who we are and where we're going? We're still denying our identity and allowing these white devils to reclassify us as another people, making us immigrants in our own country when they're the real immigrants. Huh? I got information here showing how we all know about the smallpox. That was biological warfare. They were poisoning our people back then. They were poisoning their water, poisoning their food. I got information right here I can read to you. These white devils did not give a damn about our ancestors when they came into contact with them, even though they give our children a false story by making it appear that they sat down and had Thanksgiving dinner when that's a whole lie. They do nothing but embellish and lie about history. They do nothing but embellish and lie about history. What does that mean? You can't trust the damn thing these white devils say. So what does that mean? We need to listen to our grandmothers. We need to listen to our great aunts. We need to listen to our grandfathers. We need to listen to our elders. That's what that means. And stop listening to what the white devil's talking about. Okay? Let me go back and finish reading about how Chicago got its name. Let me go back to that right quick. The first European set foot in the area we now know today as Chicago was Nicolas Perrot, a French trader in 1671. Okay, now this is an important part of history. I wanted to read this for a reason, people. Again, these white devils are diabolical. Let me read that again. The first European to set foot in the area we now know today as Chicago was Nicolas Perrot. Nicolas Perrot. His name was Perrot. Perrot, Perrot, a French trader in 1671. He was followed a few years later by French explorer Louis Jollet and Jacques Marquette. The area was largely populated by Native American Algonquian people who had long been established there. In the 1780s, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable built a farm at the mouth of the Chicago River, becoming the first non-native permanent settler. In 1795, some tribes succeeded the area to the United States following the Northwest Indian War. By 1830, Chicago was recognized as a city. Now, let me say this, okay? This is why this is important from 1671 to 1780, because during that period from 1671 to 1780, these white devils was causing all the indigenous tribes within the Michigan area and the Chicago area that is now controlled by white devils. They were, during that period in time in 1671, when the white man had not had a hold on that area, they were causing them to infight with one another. And the fur trade industry was a part of that influx that caused them to fight amongst one another. And the white devil was feeding and cultivating those wars and fights amongst indigenous people due to the fur trade, as well as also as a means of enslaving, giving them a reason. By keeping the infighting going on, now they can get slaves. By keeping the infighting going on, now they can slowly bring more white devils into the area and take land. That's what these white devils were doing. Go back and read about those wars, the War of 1830. Go read about the Indian Wars of 1780. You'll see yourself. You'll see yourself. Go research it and get the specific details of what was going on about those wars. I read about it. I'm going to tell you. The white devil was cultivating. Those indigenous peoples, the Potawatomi Indians, the Chippewa Indians, the Ottawa, the Ojibwa, the Osage, They lived in peace prior to White Devil Nicholas Perret coming in there. They lived in peace prior to Luis Jolette and Jacques Marquette coming in there. Them white devils came in there, and their excuse was the fur trade, looking for fur. No, they were looking for land. The fur thing was just an excuse to get their white devil asses in there to infiltrate and cause problems, which they did do. So that's the reason why by 1830, Chicago was recognized as a city of just 100 people. It was in 1830 the small town's name was officially recorded as Chicago. Okay? Given the city's roots, it probably won't surprise you, and I'm reading from this article. I'm reading from the article that I'm reading from is called How Chicago Got Its Name. Given the city's roots, it probably won't surprise you to learn that Chicago derived from a Native American word. However, there are different theories about which specific word it was derived from. The Native Americans who populated the area before European settlement had several different words that sounded similar to Chicago. One of the popular theories is that it was named after a chieftain named Chicago. Again, people, it is speculated that the name of Chicago was given from the name of a chief by the name of Chicago, who was reportedly drowned in the Chicago River. Other ideas about the origin includes a derivative of Chicago, meaning playful waters, or Chicago, meaning destitute. The origin of the name is widely contested among academics due to the small number of documented accounts. There you go. Okay, that's on the name of how Chicago got its name, and obviously a whole lot of stuff entails on how it got its name. You got some people say it comes from the indigenous language of the Miami, Illinois Indians, who had a word called Chikawa. The Illinois word for Chikawa, and it means Chicago, but they still don't know how. They claim they don't know how, because that right there is pretty interesting. That the fact that they believe it came from the name of a chief who was named. His name was Chief Chicago. His name was Chief Chicago, and they drowned him in the Chicago River. That wouldn't surprise me if that's how Chicago got his name. But speaking to these white devils who ain't got no problem poisoning our people, and in reference to how they poisoned our indigenous ancestors, let me read this information. This is taken from, you can go find this yourself. It's called Bioterrorism, a history of bioterrorism. Okay, let me go to the site right quick. Okay, and this is an article. It's called Early Biological War on Native Americans. You can go check this out. Just type in your Google search engine. You should be able to find this site. It's by Jeffrey Amherst, and it's called by Jeffrey Amherst and Smallpox Blankets. So it's talking about the story of smallpox blankets and other things that went on. So let me read to you some of this right quick, okay? Another disease has been used as an effective biological weapon in the New World: smallpox. Pizarro, the Spanish explorer Pizarro is said to have presented South American natives with virola contaminated clothing in the 15th century. In addition, during the French Indian War of 1754 and 1767, Sir Geoffrey Amherst, the commander of the British forces in North America, suggested to deliberately use the use of smallpox to diminish the native Indian populations to the hostilities of the British. An outbreak of smallpox in Fort Pitt led to a significant generation of formants and provided Colonel or Commander Amherst with the means to execute his plan. On June 24th, 1763, Captain Yakoke one of Amherst's subordinate officers provided the Native Americans with smallpox latent blankets from the smallpox hospital. He recorded in his journal, and I quote, "I hope it will have the desired effect. As a result of a large outbreak of smallpox occurred among the Indian tribes in the Ohio River Valley. Again, it has to be recognized that several other contacts between European colonists and Native Americans contributed to such epidemics, which had been occurring for over 200 years. Did you hear that, people? Again, let me read that again. It says, again, it has been recognized that several other contacts between European colonists and Native Americans contributed to such epidemics, which had been occurring for over 200 years. In addition, the transmission of smallpox by blankets, they says by foments of blankets, was insufficient compared to with respiratory droplet transmission. It said droplet transmission. Did you hear that? It says that the blankets was insufficient in comparison to the respiratory of droplet transmission. What does that mean by droplet transmission? Let me look at that up right quick. I'm assuming that means they probably stuck it in their food. Again, these white devils don't give a damn about hurting people when it comes to their agenda and what they are attempting to accomplish. You feel me? Their goals of greed, their goals, droplet transmission occurs when bacteria are viruses travel on relatively large respiratory droplets that people sneeze, cough, drip, or exhale. They travel only short distances before settling, usually less than 3 feet. These droplets are loaded with infectious particles. Basically, the casual contact, social contact, basically transmission through social contact. When children sneeze on one another, when somebody cough on somebody, they saying that really helped spread the biological germ that they were and help them accomplish what they were trying to accomplish back in 1775 and 1776. But if you heard me read this article, it says also that it says it has to be recognized that several other contacts between European colonists and Native Americans contributed to such epidemics, meaning they kept doing this. This was a part of their warfare against indigenous people, giving them infectious diseases like measles, like smallpox. You feel me? These white devils knew what they were doing, raw and uncut, just like that, here on the Black Vintage. And you can always join me. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at 857-232-0155. Again, that is 857-232-0155. And don't forget the conference key to get through the conference door to sit with me and join me here in the conference room, 947595. Again, that is 947595. And I want to play another audio cast, people. I got one more I want to play before I continue reading this raw and uncut information that I'm sharing with you. We got to come together as a people. We got to first reclaim our identity. We must first reclaim our identity as indigenous Aboriginal Americans. You feel me? Not Black Americans, not African Americans, not Native Americans, but again, indigenous Aboriginal Americans. You feel me? We are the embodiment. We are the physical replication and physical example of the original indigenous Aborigine here in America, people. The people that those white devils met when they first got here, when they got off the Mayflower. We are the physical representation, and we are the descendants of those original people. People, you are who your mother is. If you don't know who you are, if you say, well, how do I know I'm Indian? How do I know? I don't know if I'm an Indian. You are who your mother is. You are who your grandmother is on your mama's side. Raw just like that. Raw and uncut just like that here on the Black Village. This is JCAK Afro Black giving you the raw and uncut. That's all I know how to do, people. So on that note, I got another audio cast speaking to what's going on in Chicago. You feel me? And we shall return after this.
This July, residents of the West Calumet housing complex in East Chicago, Indiana, were told they would need to vacate their homes because the EPA reported dangerously high levels of lead in the soil. But the complex was built in 1972, and since then, not much has changed in East Chicago. No new factories, no chemical accidents. Some of the 1,000-plus residents are still there, and many of them are wondering, just how long has the EPA known about the problem? Ariel Duhem-Ross went to East Chicago to find out more.
Do you know if this park is contaminated?
I'm pretty sure this park is.
Naisa Walker has lived within the West Calumet housing complex since she was born. She is a 28-year-old mother of 3. Naisa is one of over 1,000 residents being told to move out of the complex because of dangerously high levels of lead found in the soil.
You don't know what to think now because it's been going on for so long. Ain't no telling how long they've been keeping this secret from everybody.
Construction of the West Calumet housing complex was completed in 1972 on land formerly occupied by metal processing and lead factories. Dr. Gabrielle Filippelli is a professor of earth sciences who studies lead contamination in soil.
It's coming back with the lead values now, 750 basically parts per million.
That's a lot more than the legal limit where the EPA says, okay, we have to act.
It's double.
Sherry Hunter has lived in East Chicago since before the West Calumet housing complex was built.
When you were growing up here and you lived right across from a lead plant, did you worry about lead contamination?
No. We didn't know anything about it. So we didn't know the danger of lead at that time. Not at all.
Do you know anybody personally who has tested for high levels of lead in their blood?
Yes. I know 3 people. One is my nephew and 2 other kids. This is it right here. The USS lead plant.
And so that's where the plant is, or
that's where it used to be.
Where it used to be.
And they tore it down and they covered it with rocks and dirt.
In 2009, the EPA designated the land around the old factories as a Superfund site, which means that it's been contaminated by hazardous waste. But no one from the EPA or any local or state officials told West Calumet residents they might be at risk until recently.
This neighborhood, a lot of people have been talking about how it was built on the footprint of a lead factory and lead plants in the area. What does that mean exactly for the people here?
Once lead is deposited on the landscape, it stays there. It stays there for something like 500 to 1,000 years, right? So that long. It might be lurking just underneath the grass or the mulch, which means that kids who play in the dirt, who interact with it quite a bit, continually are exposed by this legacy lead. This is this footprint concept.
Filippelli also studied lead contamination in Flint, Michigan.
How is this different than what happened in Flint?
What happened in Flint is a problem that can be solved a lot faster than this particular problem, right? What happened in Flint was a failure to truly understand the dynamics of lead exposure in a water system, and then a reluctance to actually act on it once they knew about it.
Is this actually worse than Flint?
In this case, the extent of this problem is so much more vast than the Flint case, right? There's no real instantaneous fix for it.
A representative from the EPA said that it's up to local or state government to decide whether to evacuate residents from a Superfund site. We asked the East Chicago Mayor's office why West Calumet wasn't shut down sooner, but they did not respond. The city's housing authority said they didn't know the extent of the contamination until earlier this year, when the EPA released their report. The demolition date has yet to be set, and despite the risks, many West Calumet residents are not in a hurry to leave.
People are angry. People don't know what to do. Some people don't have nowhere to go.
Do you want to move away from West Calumet?
No. I'm used to being right here because this is where I was born and raised, grew up. I don't want to move, but I have no choice. I have no choice. I have no choice.
There you go, people. You heard it. You heard it. You see what they're doing. You know, now they're talking about evacuating the people now. You know, after they done waited all these years and children are suffering, from slow growth, slow learning due to lead, due to the toxicities, not just lead. They got high, they talking about the lead, but, and the lead is crazy, like high, but there's also other toxicities in the soil, in the dirt, in the land because of what these white devils have done. You feel me? And it's so bad that the people need to leave, but they have no place to go. Exactly. I mean, just think about it. They knew what they were doing. Do you think these white devils don't know that the majority of so-called black folks don't travel far from home? They know this. That's why they knew by doing what they did and placing the people right there, and also knowing that they had, DuPont, all these big corporations who were obviously dumping their toxic waste in the soil. They knew who it was going to affect. They knew the majority of the people that would have to reap the repercussions of their devilish actions. So this is a time, we live in a times now, people, where we need to come together. We need to look after one another. I know it's hard for us to come together when we got so many chaotic family members. Hard to come together when we got so many people and family members with social and psychological issues, to the point that those who don't have those psychological issues want to get away from the chaotic ones. And I totally agree with you on that level, because you need peace no matter where you live at. You need peace if you want to progress. You need peace if you want to, if you want to be able to be a help and a blessing to somebody else. You can't help somebody else if you got chaos going on in your own life. You feel me? Hey, my sister Jay, there you go. I see you just joined me, sis. You just popped in there, huh? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I said better late than never, because I got lost in time studying myself.
I hear you. I know what it's like to get stuck researching and studying. I definitely know where you're coming from. But I appreciate you joining me. But I wish you could have made it a little early. A lot of audio casts that I had played, and I know you can reverberate on it, how these white devils is trying to kill our people with the lead and other toxins in our water and in our food. I know you know what's going on with that there.
Yeah.
And so and that's what go ahead.
Go ahead. I said I was just discussing it in my own home about the toxicity and the poison that's in the air, that's in the food, and how it's affecting our bodies and creating illness and infections and diseases, and even creating mental illness. So we are having chemical warfare, just as well as being a warfare with the chemicals that's in our foods and things that nature. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if a person if you just sit back and just look at everything that's going on and has been going on, you would think these people are not from this planet. Why would you destroy the soil? Why would you destroy the people? Why would you there's an agenda going on here, you feel me? And this is the reason why we need to come together as a people. We need to realize we need each other more than we need anybody. We need one another. And I'm meaning that we need one another aside from, setting aside the fact that we need to cut off ourselves from these white devils. And when I mean by cut ourselves off, stop looking to them for answers. Stop looking to them for answers to our problems. Stop looking to them for answers and cures to our ailments and our illnesses. We need to go back. We got to go back to our ancient ancestors, our ancient indigenous Aboriginal Indian ancestors, and their remedies, their cures, and their answers to issues and social issues that are affecting us today. You feel me?
Right. I was studying how to reconstruct our cells, because our cells are being genetically modified with all the GMO and the engineered food, and breathing in all the toxicity and sending electrical signals throughout the air in order for our electronics and TVs to work. It's destroying our cells, and also the foods our cells are mutating to the structure of the molecules that's even in our food. So we are getting attacked, not just through air, our air that we breathe, but also the food that we eat. And it's affecting our bodies and affecting the way we think, how we feel, our emotions, and all of that. So, yeah.
And these white devils knew that. They know that. When you go look up some of the stuff that they got in this food, and look at the long-term effects, I'm talking about reading down to the molecular, how the DNA structure, how it attacks your DNA structure. And if you don't feel the results of it, you'll feel it later, or your children will feel it through their DNA as a result of what you were eating, what the mother's eating. You feel me?
Yeah, I truly feel and think that they have a plan, like you said, an agenda. And the agenda is to genetically modify and also our children's cells so they can create a whole different species.
Go ahead, man. Say that again. Say that again, because you kind of chimed out. Go ahead. Repeat that again.
I'm saying that they have a plan and agenda, and I think, you know what I'm saying, and I feel within myself that the plan is to genetically modify our cells and our DNA so the next generation can produce a whole different species. You know what I'm saying? They will be able to stimulate with the new advanced that they are setting up for us to live. You know, like me and you, we still have, you know, some of the DNA from the old, from nature, because we all used to eat, you know, our food and stuff and things like that from nature before they didn't poison our fruits and our vegetables and things like that. It was still the elements, the pureness of the elements that come from nature. So what they're doing is they are genetically modifying the foods, which is going to genetically modify your cells, and then which is going to genetically modify your children's cells, and it's going to change the way they think and what they see and what they feel about the world and their reality, and it's going to create a whole different type of generation, and it's going to fit according to the new world that they are building, which is, you know, the structure of technology.
You know what, though? Regardless of whatever these white devils are doing, we know this much. Whatever they're doing, the after effects and the process of it right now is hurting our people. I mean, we have more young men today who are violent, quick-tempered, and with no care for nothing but chasing green cotton. Say they love their mama, but will turn around and cuss their mama out as quick as they say they love her. Say they love their woman, will kick their woman's ass as quick as they say that they love them. Will turn around and turn on their best friend as quick as they say that they love their best friend. We know there's a whole lot of environmental, as well as social, spiritual, psychological, as well as eating that contributes to what's going on with the so-called young black male today, and woman for that fact. You feel me? I said so-called because we know they're indigenous Aboriginal. They ain't black. They're not black Americans. Neither one of those exist. Them are artificial constructs. So whatever these people from another universe, whatever their agenda is, I know right now the process of that in between now and then is hurting our people. You feel me? And
well, yeah, that's part of the plan to what you call, is that the word, to genocide, to kill off a certain genes and DNA. And the only way they can kill us off is through war, of having war within our own community and turning against our own cells, because they know once they get rid of I would say nature, the nature that's within you, what comes from nature, from the planet, the great mother. Once they, quote, try to get rid of that nature, those chromosomes, that DNA that's within us, then they know that then they can make their own artificial world of people. also the thing is that when you begin to change the cells, it changes also the way, it makes you psychotic. You know what I'm saying? It's making people psychotic. It's in our food. Our foods are engineered. It's fake.
You know what?
And molecules that's in our food. So, of course, it's going to make them psychotic because it's an imbalance in the brain.
There you go. There you go. Look at that. That's why I like what my sister joined. She dropping that knowledge of science, dropping that knowledge of wisdom. And you know what? Speaking to what you're talking about, I was in the store the other day with my family. And I wanted some watermelon, right? I'm looking for watermelon with seeds. I'm looking for natural watermelon. I'm looking for a watermelon that don't look like a clone. I'm looking for a watermelon that look like a watermelon from back in the day, back when our ancestors were growing watermelon. You feel me? I'm not looking for a watermelon that looked like it's so big it was shot up with steroids. I'm not looking for a watermelon that's so round it don't look like the one I see on the ground because it's too round. You feel me? I'm looking for one with some seeds in it. My son said, Dad, I don't want no watermelon with seeds in it. I had to spit out seeds. I said, boy, them seeds is life. Them seeds is that seed represent nature. We ain't getting no seedless watermelon. That watermelon ain't got no flavor. Watermelon tastes like it's missing something. Not only the seeds, it tastes like it's missing some natural sweetness. It's missing some natural flavor. I'm not looking for no whitewashed watermelon, boy. I want me a real. Give me a look. Ain't no watermelons in that store with seeds in it. Since all the watermelons were seedless in the store.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And the thing is, it's genetically changing our world. And I'm talking about not just the outside world, we're talking about the inside world. It's genetically changing the way our next generation, the way they think and feel. They are running. Sorry, using your name, but they is synthetically engineering their cells, their mind. Okay. What they doing to the next world, I call it the next world, is artificially, chemically changing everything. Every substance that you can think of that makes up the human species, they are synthetically changing, engineer, synthetic, GMO in everything. So it's like, what do you do?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think we should be doing, sis. And you know what? I told you a long time ago, you should have went and got your herbalistic license with all the stuff that you know about growing plants and cloning and all. You know about all that stuff, cultivating. See, you women are natural agriculturalists. You guys are natural agriculturalists because of who you guys are as women, what you represent as a woman, and what your spiritual and physical DNA really represents. You guys are the epitome of growth, life, fertility, and truth. You feel me? And so this is what we got to do. We got to start growing our own stuff. We got to start cultivating our own dirt. We got to start processing and making our own dirt. This is what we need. And there's some indigenous brothers out there doing it, and I know. There's an indigenous brother I know, Chief Canalago. That brother he bought some land and he cultivating his own. This is what do you think, sis?
Yeah, I think that we have to learn how to. First of all, we have to reconstruct ourselves, because your cells is your mind. Your cells is everything. We are created from trees, and the cells create organs, and cells create your tissue. Cells create your brain. So when you're talking about,
hey sis, go ahead and present yourself. This is my sis, and I like to call her Queen, Clan Mother. Divinity. Osha, right? Go ahead. Osha. Yes. Go ahead, sis.
So the thing is that I am learning to reconstruct the cells. And the only way that you can reconstruct your cells is to learn every atom and molecule that creates the flesh in your organs. So I'm not going to really get into details into that, But that's the first beginning of basically becoming a medicine woman or man, and begin to learn how to create from scratch instead of going to buy this poison. The store is full of poison. You know, it's in your medicine. It's in everything that you can think to buy that's man-made. So we have to go back into our culture and find out how did they live and how did they cultivate and how did they create their medicines and what herbs to use for this. And the only way to do that is learn the chemistry of your body. And that's what I'm working on, is learning to reconstruct the cells, because that's the only way you can change the world, is through the point of cellular mechanism, because we are all cellular mechanisms. So therefore, that the only way to fix the world is to fix the mind. The only way to fix the mind is to reconstruct your cells, because our cells are genetically modified.
Wow.
You know,
wow.
So that is my journey and my purpose. And, you know, and that's what has to happen, because other than that, you know, we fall short, and we all gonna die a slow death. We have to go back into our culture and get close to nature, and let Mother Nature show us and teach us how to live. Because we have two different worlds going on here. We have the synthetic world, and we have the world of nature. So you have to choose which life you choose to live. If you want to live in the synthetic world, which is the matrix system, you're going to slowly die. If you begin to get close to nature and learn your culture and start cultivating and creating your own medicines and foods and things of a sort, then you shall live. So, you know, it's a matter of choices, and we all have choices. You know, and it's hard to get people to understand the importance of getting close to nature and learning your culture and where you originally came from. Because once you understand that, then the Great Mother can lead you on how to heal your cells.
Wow. Dropping that wisdom. My sister, Divinity O'Shea, dropping the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. And that's why I like to have my sis here, because she going to give you the raw and uncut. She going to get a lot of people can't vibe with that because they can't comprehend it. Because like you said, you know, too many of us are allowing the matrix, the synthetic system, the white man system. You feel me? He's the one that created this system. This is what he's doing. He's trying to make his male matrix version of hers. And just like he got that male God that everybody's following, you know, that male God, you know, and as that male God is nothing but a copy of the masculine version of her, because without her, he wouldn't be. You feel me? He wouldn't exist. He couldn't do what he do without her. You feel me? And that's why he tries to subdue and try to control her and try to brainwash her. Because if he can brainwash her, then he can brainwash everybody. Because who's putting out everybody? Her. Every man come from a woman. Every man wants a woman. Every man needs a woman, and every man cannot exist, can't even cohabitate, can't even keep his membranes together unless he has that woman to calm him down and to bring things together for him in one way or another. You feel me? You can't do it alone. We need her, because everything is about her. We all exist because of her. We persist because of her. The white man knows this. We got to get this. He knows this. Why he's flipping everything on everybody. This is why he's reversing everything on everybody. And if he can get her to accept that brainwashing, if he can get her to feed on that negativity, if he can get her to vibrate on it and recycle it, and then it's going to keep going on, people. That's why our women have to wake up. That's why our sisters got to wake up. You know, I ain't tripping off the brothers. You know what? You brothers don't want to wake up. Y'all die off then. Go on, die off. Let these sisters wake up and then bring us back to life. You can die with your dick. I tell them, here, die with your dick in your hand. Go ahead, brother. Die with your dick in your hand. Raw and uncut, just like that. You feel me? You feel me? Raw and uncut, just like that. So on that note, okay, there was a lot of information that I wanted to continue to share, and I know my sister can vibrate on right here because, let me read this right quick. Time is short. My show is actually over, but I'm going to prolong it a little bit longer because I'm enjoying this discussion with my sister right here. But I got something right here that showing that this white devil been doing this stuff for the first time he came into contact with our people. This is called the colonial germ warfare. Okay, check this out. During the Pontiac Uprising, the Pontiac Wars of 1763, the Indians besieged Fort Pitt. They burnt nearby houses, forcing the inhabitants, forcing the white devils, to take refuge in a well-protected fort. The British officers charged Captain Simmons Euchre, this is a white man, Captain Simeon Euchre, to report to Colonel Henry Boquet in Philadelphia that he feared the crowded conditions would result in disease. Smallpox had already broken out. On June 24, 1763, William Trent, a local trader, recorded in his journal that 2 Indian chiefs had visited the fort, urging the British to abandon the fight. But the British refused. Instead, when the Indians were ready to leave, Trent wrote, "Out of regard for them, we gave them 2 blankets and handkerchiefs out of the smallpox hospital. I hope it would have the desired effect." Sir Geoffrey Amherst, commander of the British forces in North America, wrote in July 7th in 1763, probably unaware of the events in Fort Pitt, could it not be contrived, this was what the Geoffrey Amherst said, could it not be contrived to send the smallpox among those disinfected tribes of Indians? We must, on the occasion, use every stratagem in our power to reduce them. He ordered the extirpation of the Indians and said no prisoners should be taken. About a week later, he wrote to Mr. Broquet, "You would do well to try to re-inoculate the Indians by any means of blankets, as well as to try every other method that can serve to exasperate this execrable race." So these white devils have been doing this stuff for a long. I got another one I can read too. These white devils been doing this for years. They don't look. That's why they can poison the people in Flint, and 4 years later they still dealing with it. Because if Flint, Michigan, was a bunch of blue-eyed, blonde-haired, pasty-looking people from old to young, those pipes would have been changed that same year. If Chicago, where there's large amounts of impoverished black and brown people, like in Philly, like in Los Angeles, like in any area that they push us into and create it, and the whole purpose of doing this is a modern day plantation. Because what does a modern day plantation do? It still gets the white devil his money. Because every time you go out and buy food, every time you go out and buy clothes, he gets a piece of that. So that was the whole purpose of the plantation, money. The whole purpose of the plantation was for them to make money. As much as you can go out there and pick corn, as much as sugar cane as you can cut down, as much as cotton as you can pick, and you bring back, that's more money for him. And it's no different today. Even though they got us in impoverished areas where they're poisoning our people, giving us and feeding us a bunch of pork and beef, something his people used to live off of and get scurvy from. Something the white devil used to get scurvy from because they ate a bunch of pork and beef. I'm going to get on that. That's going to be next week. I'm going to talk about that. The scurvy and the way our people eat. I'm going to get down to the raw and uncut of how our people was forced to eat on a plantation and how that turned into soul food. And what part of that is indigenous, not African, because soul food is not African. It's indigenous. But how they poisoned our ancestral healthy eating with what? Pork and beef and gave not only just any type of pork and beef, but with the leftovers, with the things, the intestines, the foot, the ears, the butt, the nose, the tongue, things they would not eat. White devils, just like that, raw and uncut here on the Black Village. So on that, sis, you want to add some more of this? Anything you want to add, sis? Any more of your divine wisdom you want to share with the people on healthy eating, sis?
Well, yes. You just be careful what you consume, what you put in your body, and because it changes your life. You are what you eat, and that try to eat more fruits and vegetables. Well, they say, it's poison in the fruits and vegetables. They say they genetically modifying the vegetables. But then you have to know that if you eat vegetables, at least you have some vitamins in there. You know what I'm saying? Versus if you're just eating synthetic foods like cookies and chips and sodas and the red meat. Red meat is part of, they said 98% of our illness come from red meat. And so you have to understand and that you are what you eat. So I would just say that love yourself. To love yourself is to want the best for yourself. And not take your children to these McDonald's and these restaurants, giving the white man your money to kill you. You know what I'm saying? You actually giving the white man money to kill you and yourself. So, wake up as a people and understand that there's no love in your physicians. There's no love when it comes to your education. There is no love in this whole system. The system was designed to drain you from your energy and kill you off with a dis-ease on every level.
Raw and uncut.
If you love yourself and you love your children, you will understand that you have to eat from nature, and you have to get close to nature. Every molecule and atom in your body comes from nature. And to go against nature and not know your culture and not understand that you are nature, you are actually contributing to the war against yourself.
Raw and uncut right here on the Black Village, representing indigenous Aborigines for life, people. My sister, that's Clan Mother Queen Divinity O'Shea, dropping the Raw and Uncut here on the Black Village. You know what? Hopefully she'll be back here next week to join us, and maybe she'll get in here a little earlier because she got a whole lot she needs to share with these women. And I'm talking about with the brothers too. We need to listen to. I'm saying the women because I want my women to vibrate on this. You feel me? More so than the brothers, because the women are the producers. The women are the ones that keep us in existence. We need the women to vibrate on this. The women are the ones that are feeding the children. The women are the ones that are working hard to keep kids together and teach them what love is. We need these women to vibrate on this even more so. And so we will definitely be back next delicious indigenous Aboriginal Sunday to drop nothing but the raw and uncut here, like I always do every indigenous Sunday, to my indigenous family. You feel me? Let me give a shout out to my fellow comrades and soldiers out there, Aboriginal soldiers, brothers, researchers like Brother Ultra Melanite, Brother Autogenous One. Much love to that brother Autogenous One soldier. I love that brothers. I love his YouTube channel, teaching the people who they are. Reversing the historical effects of what these white devils have done to our people. I'm giving it up to much love to Brother Autogenous One. Much love to Brother Ultra Melanite. Much love to Medicine Man. Much love to much love to Dane Calloway. Much love. You feel me? One love. Aboriginal love. You feel me? To my people. You feel me? To all my clan mothers and my clan sisters out there, Aboriginal indigenous sisters out there who are dropping the raw and uncut to rectify, to correctify what these white devils have done by lying to our people about who we are in our history. You feel me? So I will definitely be back next Indigenous Sunday, continuing this subject matter the plantation poisoning of a people, why we eat the way we do, part 3. This is part 2, but I will continue it to a part 3 next Sunday. Hopefully my sister, Divinity O'Shea, will be able to join me and verberate and drop some more wisdom and divine wisdom to you guys on that level. You feel me? I would definitely be back. And I would definitely be aboriginally, indigenously back. You feel me? But I got to go. My show is over. And I didn't get a chance. I wanted to share some more information, but I would have to conclude this. But I want to talk about the treaties. You feel me? The Michigan treaties of all that, from Michigan to Chicago, all that area, all that Indiana, all that. You feel me? The treaties are 370 ratified treaties that the government broke and had with our people. You feel me? I'm going to talk about that in reference and what these treaties have to do. But the fact is that these white devils know that this is our land. That's why they want to kill our people off. That's why they're doing all that, even at the expense of killing off poor white people. But you know what I want you to know? They take care of their people a whole lot more better than they take care of us. They listen to their people a whole lot more too. Am I wrong, sis?
Right.
Go ahead,
right.
sis.
And that's why we got it. That's why I'm working on I am working on creating medicine. Anything that the white man came up with, I am going to create a herbal self-healing product. So I will be coming out soon with that information, exactly what I'm using and how it affects the benefit that you'll be getting from it.
So we're going to definitely keep my sister, what she's doing, keep y'all tuned in on what she's doing, my sis, because she knows about the herbs. She's been researching and she's been working with that stuff for a long time. Even the cultivation of one of our most ancient medicines and ceremonial herbs, cannabis, a.k.a. marijuana. My sis know about all that. And I got a podcast I'm going to do on that real soon about indigenous cannabis, indigenous marijuana. I ain't talking about what this white men have synthesized, cloned, and they playing with still to this day. All these white devils playing with it and doing it. When it's... Look, we'll get into that on another time. But I got to go. And any more last words you want to say before we head out of here, before we go? Or are you done?
I just want to send love and peace to you all. And thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, on that note, as I always say, I gotta go, people, but I would definitely be indigenously back to drop the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. You can always chime in. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. Yeah, and I want my Aboriginal brothers and sisters to call in and support me. You feel me? You can chime in at 857-232-0155. Again, that's 857-232-0155. And don't forget the conference key to get through the conference door. That's 947595. Again, it's 947595. And on that note, as I always say, hey, may the great mother bring us together under the wings of her love and her peace. And as always, I love chicken, so love, peace, and chicken grease. I'm outie.
Yes, city you led.
From fine, the children's blood tests revealed high exposure to lead. So how did Flint's water supply become contaminated?
To save money.
Barack Obama drank the water trying to put us at ease while our people were still dying from Legionnaire's disease. And not one pipe has been replaced and not one hole has been dug because they trying to sweep the water crisis under the rug. And thanks to Dr. Mona Hanna for exposing the biz on how contaminated water been affecting our kids. And only God can judge Rick Snyder for this urban disaster. They ought to treat them the same way they treated Kwame Kilpatrick. Plus when I think about the kids, it brings a tear to my eye. The EPA just stood by and left us out here to die. Phony celebrities keep coming claiming that they support us, but we need money in Flint and not just some cases of water. City you led.
residents have been subjected to drinking water with elevated levels of lead. Complaints to authorities fell on deaf ears. In addition to the presidential meeting today, 2 class action lawsuits are being filed today, blaming high-level government officials for the toxic water. On the list of people being sued, Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, a Republican who acknowledged in an interview that the Flint water crisis is his Hurricane Katrina.
God save our city.